What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Team Member Perspective podcast show. I'm your host, Coulter, and this episode is pretty special. This is episode number 52, which means we have been doing this for a year now, consistently every single week for the last year, in honor of the annual, anniversary of the Team Member Perspective podcast. I want to talk through a few different things that I've learned from just doing a podcast for the last year and kind of just share my thoughts, my experience of doing that, and a few things that I've learned that have really helped me kind of expand my mind, be more okay with doing things that are uncomfortable, doing things that maybe we're not super familiar with, and how empowering that can truly be. One of the first things that I've experienced over the last year is, and I guess let me back up, guys, doing a podcast consistently every single week is difficult. There is a lot going on, and there have been some weeks where the last thing that I want to do is record a podcast episode because I've got everything going on with the Team Member Perspective training group and running that business with my family and making sure that I'm spending enough time with my family and quality time, trying to balance everything in life, plus having to do this podcast episode. And I say it like that, but guys, it's not necessarily that I have to do it. It's just that I committed to myself to do it. But it hasn't been easy. It's taught me a lot about the importance of, if you say you're going to do something, then just do it. There's a lot of confidence that comes when you can say, I'm going to do a podcast episode every single week, and you actually follow through with it. A lot of confidence that comes from that. Because then in other areas of my life, other times that I say, hey, I'm going to do this, I have this proof that I actually do what I say I'm going to do, which in turn brings confidence. You go into things confidently, knowing that you can actually do that. You can accomplish big things. Whatever you set your mind out to, you can do. The first thing that I've experienced over the last year is that consistency feels really good. Consistency feels awesome. Being able to just be consistent at anything in life feels really good. You feel accomplished. I think in our experience, we want to feel like we're finding some sort of progress. We want to feel like we're always getting better. We're always improving. It's like we crave that. And I think just deciding I'm going to do this and actually following through and being disciplined to do it, even on the days that you don't feel like it, there's a lot of power that comes from that. So consistency feels extremely good. What I found is that being consistent with this, that consistency actually will spill into other areas of my life. And I even noticed that as a team member. As simple as it is, like having a consistent morning routine before I would get into the office as a team member would set me up and help me build this confidence that I've talked about to now when the office starts, when the day starts at 9 a.m., I'm in the office, I already have this proof that I can do what I say that I'm going to do. I can do what I'm setting out to do. And it's like you hold yourself to a higher standard when you start to be consistent in one thing. That consistency will spill into other areas of your life. Finding something that you can and just show up and do consistently every single day, every single week, just do something consistently, you'll find that will spill, that energy will carry into other areas of your life. For me as a team member, doing that morning routine and being consistent there, that consistency started to spill into my production, which was so fun. Okay. The next thing here that I've got is having the proper expectations going into things is pretty important. Having the right expectations for me going into starting a new podcast has really set the stage, has allowed me to be consistent and actually show up and do this and make it something that's sustainable for the long term. I mean, we're going on 52 episodes. I haven't missed one the whole last year, which is quite an accomplishment. But I feel like what helped me is having the expectations starting a podcast. I had the expectations going into this that I'm not going to be good at podcasting when I first start. And I was okay with that because I wasn't expected to be good. I hadn't done this before. Having the expectation that, what, you just got to start. You're not going to be anywhere close to perfect. In fact, you're probably not even going to like to listen back to yourself doing this, but just being okay with that, knowing that, hey, you're not supposed to be good. That expectation helped me and allowed me to continue to show up and just continue to have that consistency as far as the podcast goes. So having the proper expectations in place when you're starting something new, I think is important. Team members that are brand new, that you don't have any insurance experience, you don't have any sales experience, you're not supposed to be good. So why do we hold ourselves to this standard? Why do we expect ourselves to, within the first month, be a top producing team member when we don't really even understand insurance? We haven't really even been taught how to sell and develop certain sales skills. We don't have that context. Why do we hold ourselves to this high standard and expect more from ourselves than actually really we should? I think that sets us up for just throwing in the towel and quitting because it's not happening like we expected it to happen. I think with social media and just the way that the world is now, instant gratification has kind of screwed us up a little bit. That if we, for example, like I want a Chipotle burrito, I can get on my phone and have that delivered within an hour. Or if I want to just take a minute and look at my phone and kind of decompress a little bit and find some funny videos, I can do that within a matter of a few minutes. The ease of access for us to get what we want in instant gratification it kind of goes against a lot of what needs to happen in business, needs to happen as team members to actually find high levels of results and find consistency, because we're used to this instant gratification that when we go out, when we start this new role as a team member and we're having all these conversations, but we're not writing policies, we get discouraged because everything else in life has provided that instant gratification. Having the expectations, it sets the foundation for you to be successful and to actually just continue to show up and continue to put in the work without expecting these immediate results from it. The next thing that I've enjoyed over the last year and really just learning about myself and about podcasting and running a business is there's power in authenticity. Each of us are so unique to who we are that sometimes with social media and with everything out there, and even with sales training and looking at people that are finding success, it's like we try to mimic them, we try to copy them exactly how they're doing it with their specific style, which I think is okay initially. I think it's important to replicate before you iterate. Just model people that are successful, do what they're doing. But I think it comes to a point that sometimes we convince ourselves that maybe like we can't actually be our authentic self because that's not how so-and-so is that we're trying to model. We can't, maybe if you're a little goofy and you like jokes and your humor and that's just who you are, maybe you've convinced yourself that you can't actually utilize your humor and utilize those strengths that you have in your personality because so-and-so agent doesn't have those same qualities as you. And we get in our heads a little bit too much about following and being this certain mold of what in our minds is what success looks like. And I think that goes against us a little bit. What I've learned over the last year, and guys, I'm still learning it. It's not something that's 100% there, but authenticity is powerful. Being authentic to who you are. And I've talked about this a lot with our group, but in training and when you're trying to become a better team member and sell more policies and just help more people, we're taught these sales processes and we hear from these different top producers. And again, in our mind, we're like, okay, I need to model that. I need to replicate that, which I think is true. Replicate first, but then you can do some iteration. Make it your own. Make it your own. You don't have to take everything word for word, body language, like mimicking and copying them exactly down to their body language, their tone, everything down to what they're saying, how they're like. You don't have to mimic that 100% to be successful, but you can take bits and pieces from them and just make you better, make your process better, be authentic to who you are. There's a lot of power in that. And people appreciate authenticity. When you think about a lot of these people that have kind of gotten big over the years, like Theo Vaughn. He's a new podcaster. I've enjoyed him. He's a goofy bugger, but I like that about him. He is so authentic to who he is. It was kind of interesting listening to him. He was on Tony Robbins' podcast, or Tony Robbins was on Theo Vaughn's podcast. And I mean, we've got two dudes that are just so different. Theo Vaughn was kind of, the way he thinks and the way he talks and comes to conclusions and what he says is just sometimes a little off the wall. And then you've got Tony Robbins, who is just such a big, like, powerful man in the personal development space that has helped so many people unlock their potential and really get in tune with themselves and accomplishing big things. We've got these two guys on a podcast just jiving and just seeing how they're so different. What I appreciate about Theo Vaughn is he's so authentic. He is who he is. He's not trying to be anybody else. As well as Tony Robbins, Joe Rogan, like we can name a lot of them, but the authenticity is what people appreciate. As you're going throughout your life, whether you're an agent, whether you're a team member, just embrace that. Embrace who you are and run with it. I think you're going to find that you can be more consistent. You can do things longer, set yourself up for long-term success instead of just this, we're going to do it really hard for 3 months and we're going to stop. Like, it allows us to set ourselves up for a career that we not only are finding success in, but we're actually finding a lot of joy and fulfillment in as well. So authenticity is so important. Embrace that instead of just trying to completely mirror and mimic what those successful people in your life are like. But again, I think there's a balancing act there. Replicate before you iterate. Like, start modeling people that are successful if you want that in your life, but then just find ways to make it your own. Find ways to put your twist on it so it's authentic to who you are. The next thing is it's so easy. It is so easy to overthink the small things or overthink things in general. I think one of the biggest things that team members struggle with when they're learning something new or they're just starting out, or I think even if they've been doing this for a while, is we just worry so much about what other people are thinking of us. The way our office was set up is it's kind of an open floor, meaning we don't have our specific offices, but we've got just open desks, and I can hear everything that my coworkers are saying. I can hear their pitches. I can hear how they're talking to customers. Like, there's not really any like privacy as far as that goes. And I remember early on as a team member, not really liking that, right? I just didn't really want my team members to hear me mess up, and I would get in my head, and it took me a minute to kind of work through that. But I think ultimately what got me to do it, even though I felt that uncomfortable, I did not want to look like a fool in front of my coworkers, in front of my friends, and kind of fumble in front of them. I feel like what got me through that is just my ultimate drive, like what I actually wanted to accomplish. And I think if your why is strong enough, all these little things don't really matter, but I still dealt with them. But I got to a point where I would just continue to just show up, and regardless of what I was thinking, hey, I don't want so-and-so to hear my pitch. I don't want to mess up. I don't want to look like a fool in front of them. Even though I was thinking that, my driving force, my why, still got me to just push through that and still have the conversation anyways. And what happened is it was like a muscle. I would still have those thoughts and they would still come in, but I just got to a point where it wasn't as strong of a thought anymore. It was like, yeah, okay, that is one thing, but I have all this proof that I've done it before and it's worked, and my coworkers actually don't care. They're actually it's probably benefiting them more than anything. But that's an example of we just think so much. We overthink the small things that don't actually matter. With our customers, we don't want to mess up in front of them. But here's the thing, our customers don't know the sales process. They don't know if you're going to mess up. And quite frankly, they're not going to think about that. But we've convinced ourselves that they are. We don't want to mess up in front of them. And even in our role plays in our agencies, like, we don't want to look like a fool. We don't want to look like we don't know what we're doing. But reality, guys, like, that's how we get better. You've got to embrace that and just stop overthinking. And I know that's easy to say, but maybe you're probably going to still overthink, but just work that muscle. Recognize that those thoughts are going to come and you're going to start to overthink, but it's not the issue that the thought's going to come in. It's the issue. And what you have control over is how long you're going to let that dwell and what you're going to do about it. So my suggestion, something that's totally shaped my life, is just commit to just doing it anyway. Commit to being okay with feeling uncomfortable and just watch how things change for you. Okay. The next thing is being proactive in our preparation is just so important. It's totally helped me, especially doing this podcast. I mean, doing an episode every single week for the last 52 weeks for a year, like it's been a commitment for me. But what has allowed me to just make sure that it happens is the proactive preparation, right? Making sure that, okay, this is when I'm going to do my podcast episode this week. And here's the topic that I want to cover. And just kind of think about that over the few days so I can get some ideas of what I want to talk about before I get to that day and I just show up and I turn the camera on. There's a lot of proactive preparation, a lot of thinking that goes on that makes it a little bit easier. Being proactive there has allowed me to do that. And I've talked about weekly planning, but that is where I get proactive with my preparation. And I've got our TMP weekly planner coming out, the Win the Week weekly planner for team members. Super excited. It's actually, I just got in touch with the manufacturer and that should be arriving within the next couple weeks. Excited to get those out to you guys. But the whole concept is really to just live your role as a team member by design and not by default. Be proactive and actually write your story, paint your canvas instead of letting your story write itself or your canvas paint itself. Because one of two things is going to happen. When you get in the agency every morning, when you get in the office, you're either going to, one, let the phone calls and the emails coming in dictate what you do and don't do that day, or you're going to have a plan and be proactive and actually go make it happen, and you're going to dictate your day. Weekly planning has allowed me to do that. It has allowed me to stay organized. I think there's a lot of feelings that I deal with. I think all of us deal with, whether we're team members, we're agents, or we're not even in insurance. And it's feelings of stress. It's feelings of anxiety. And those can kind of limit us. We let those sit and our experience becomes very difficult. And I'm speaking more to myself here, but I'm sure many of you listening to this have dealt with that or are currently dealing with it. But one thing that has helped me kind of get out of my head and stop being so anxious and feel a little bit better and alleviate some of that stress is to weekly plan. Mess creates stress. If I can get organized before every Monday of the week, if I can just be proactive with what I want to accomplish that week and kind of make some plans to do it, I feel a lot better going into that week. That stress kind of lifts. I feel like I'm more in control of my life, of my business, of my situation as a team member. I feel like I'm more in control. So some of that stress lifts and that anxiety also kind of eases a little bit. And so mess creates stress. If you feel anxious, if you feel stressed, take time every week and plan for your week and see how it helps you. But it's helped me tremendously. The next thing is to get good at something. And again, going back to the expectations, we can't expect ourselves to be good when we're just starting something new. But the way to get good is repetitions. We think about all of the greats. We got Kobe Bryant, Tom Brady, LeBron James, Bryce Harper. All of these guys have gotten good because they are students of the game. They practice every single day, multiple times a day. That is how they got good. If you want to get good at baseball, you can't just expect to just show up and start hitting dingers, hitting singles, triples, doubles. You can't expect to start doing that if you haven't done it a lot before, if you haven't put in the time, if you haven't practiced. It's the same thing with this as team members, guys, or even if you're doing a podcast, like you cannot expect yourself to be good if you haven't done it multiple times. Quantity first and then quality. If we can just do more of something, we're going to naturally get better. And that's what I've noticed with this podcast. I don't even want to go back and listen to my first episodes. I just don't. Number one, I don't really like hearing myself. I think you guys can agree with me there. Like we just don't like to hear ourselves talk. But number two, I just don't want to go back and listen to those things because I'm sure I've improved just by doing more. And there's still a lot of improvement there to be had. But like what I'm saying here is with quantity comes quality. So if you're a new team member and you're wanting to get better at the life insurance conversation, the first things you need to do is just start having more conversations. You're naturally going to get better. But what happens is if you can commit to quantity and commit to doing more, and you can be proactive with your training, what starts to happen is you're going to identify trends. You're going to identify bottlenecks of where you're getting stuck. But you're not able to do that. You're not able to actually be proactive with your training if you're not actually doing quantity first. You need context. You need to know, oh my gosh, I've had all these conversations. And then when training hits, it's like, oh, yeah, I've been getting stuck in my pivot every single time, but I really like what so-and-so said. Wow, I'm going to try that. And that's how you can get better. But that training doesn't really stick. You don't really have a place to hang your hat until you've had that experience, until you've had all those conversations. But that's how you get better. And that's why I love our group so much, because we get to hear from a variety of top producing team members. And we're all so different. Again, going back to the authenticity, we're all so unique to ourselves that I like to be able to hear from a lot of different team members that are crushing it, that are getting success at a high level, because I can take bits and pieces from each of these team members and make my overall process better. That is why I love our group, because it really is, we get to learn from a variety of top producers to make what we do better. But again, if you want to get better at something, commit to quantity, commit to doing more. The quality will come after that. Okay. And then the last thing that I want to touch on is it's never too late to learn. I'm 28. I know I'm still young, but it feels like just yesterday that I was 16 getting my Jeep for my birthday, this brown Jeep Cherokee. I guess it was gold. It wasn't necessarily black. It was a gold Jeep Cherokee. I had some nice big wheels. I had hubcaps. That thing was freaking sweet. Got 14 miles a gallon. I ended up selling it because, man, I wasn't making any money and mom and dad wouldn't help me with gas. I ended up selling it. But anyways, it feels like yesterday I was just 16. Guys, that has been 12 years ago. It does not seem like that. There's parts of me that I feel like I'm really young, but then when I look at it like that, I'm like, holy cow, time's going by quick. And maybe I feel like I'm getting a little bit old. And some of you might relate with me here, but sometimes we think that it's too late to learn something new. That there's no way that we can do that because it's just too late. But what I've learned from this is it's never too late to learn. It is never too late to learn. If you're a team member that you've crushed auto and fire production for the last 10 years, but you just have convinced yourself that you can't figure out life insurance, you can't learn how to do it, you can do it. You can learn. It's never too late to learn. It's been a little refreshing to just have this experience. And I think confidence comes when you have proof. I love the quote by Alex Hormozi that's confidence doesn't come from just shouting affirmations in the mirror. Confidence comes from having a stack of proof, undeniable proof that shows that you are who you say you are. Being able to have this experience and know, okay, over the last 52 weeks, I have showed up and I now have a podcast. That gives me confidence going forward. Or over the last year, I can consistently show up and have 6 life insurance conversations every day. And now I'm selling policies. I'm selling 100 plus policies a year. That will give you confidence going forward. It's never too late to learn, but the best and quickest way to learn is just by doing. That is the experience is the quickest way to learn. So if you're serious about living the life that you want and learning new things and getting your production to the next level, whether it's the life insurance, the health insurance, the auto insurance, whether it's developing these centers of influences where you have a referral machine that's pumping you referrals every month. Guys, it's not too late. Be proactive. Go out and make it happen. Life is way too short for us not to do that. So that's my challenge, is to just commit to something and just start doing something. And when you do more and when you commit to the quantity, you're going to get better. It's inevitable. It's been a year. Thank you so much for all of you that are listening in. I mean, we're only going to I've got a lot of fun ideas for this podcast. It's only going to get better from here, but I'm enjoying it. I feel it's allowed me to be better at a lot of different things in my life. It allowed me to develop skills that I think will help me going forward. But more than anything, it's really helped my confidence in knowing that, hey, if I want to set out and I want to do something, I can actually do it. And there's a lot of power in that. But yeah, stay tuned. We're going to have a different setup here coming soon. We're going to have different guests. We've got our TMP coaches, just top producing team members across the country. We're going to do a group podcast and probably start doing a lot more of those. My hope is, and my goal is, I want to have you team members and you agents send in questions that we can answer on the podcast. And just, if you've got bottlenecks you're struggling with in the agency or things that you're dealing with on a personal level, send in your questions, email us, and I'll let you know how we can do that. But I would love it to be more interactive. I would love to talk about topics that you want us to talk about. We've got some exciting things happening, exciting guests coming up. Super excited to share that with you guys. But overall, super grateful for you tuning in. It means the world to me, and look for more. So I appreciate you guys. We'll catch you in the next episode.